So I'm going to present my screen for you guys to see some samples of how to do that. And the first thing that I want to go over is just the parts of a fraction. So remember, the top of a fraction is called the numerator. And the bottom number of a fraction is called a denominator. So whenever you're talking about fractions, you're talking about the part of a whole number. So 1 over 2 means obviously half of a whole number. So if I come down here and show you some representations of that, I want to show you how to change a mixed number into an improper fraction. So I want you to look at number 14 right here. This would be like $5.75. When I convert this mixed number into an improper fraction, I'm multiplying the denominator, that's the bottom number, times the whole number, 5, and I'm adding the numerator. The denominator stays the same. Some of you remember this from 5th grade. Some of you maybe not. So to convert $5.75, 5 3/4 into an improper fraction, I would do 4 times 5 is 20, plus 3 is 23 over 4. I want you to understand that 5 3/4 is equivalent to 23 over 4. It's the same amount of money, which is equivalent to $5.75. Now you might say, well, Mr. Ramsey, how is 3/4 75 cents? Remember, 3 over 4 is a division problem. So the denominator, that becomes the divisor, and the numerator becomes the dividend. Now you know that 4 doesn't fit into 3, so you'd add a decimal here and a couple zeros. You'd bring your decimal up into your quotient, and you'd say, well, 4 doesn't fit into 3, but 4 fits into 37 times. And this is where it becomes 75 cents. You multiply and subtract. 4 times 7 is 28. I subtract and I get 2. I bring down the 0, and here's your 5. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So that's where you get your 75 cents. Of course, your whole number 5 would stay the same. Let's look at number 18. So to make 18 into an improper fraction, I'm going to multiply down here, 6 times 3, and I'm going to add up here, plus 1. The thing that stays the same is the denominator. So I know 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19 over 3. So this would be equivalent to 19 over 3. Now I know that 6 1/3 is the same as $6.33. So I can write $6.33 several ways. I can write it as 19 over 3. I can write it as 6 1/3, or I can write 6.33. Let's take a look at number 17. 8 2/3 is equivalent to $8.66. How do I write that as an improper fraction? I multiply the denominator by the whole number. I add the numerator, and the denominator stays the same. So 8 times 3 plus 2 over 3. I know 8 times 3 is 24 plus 2 is 26, and the denominator stays the same. So this is equivalent to $8.66. 26 over 3, or 8 2/3. Okay, what about when it's written as an improper fraction? How do I write that as a mixed number? Remember, this is a division problem. So your denominator becomes the divisor, that's the little number outside the box, and the numerator becomes the dividend, that's the number in the box. So I know that 5 is divided by 4 one whole time, that's the quotient or the whole number. 1 times 4 is 4, I subtract, and I have 1 left over. So the remainder becomes the numerator that goes here, and the denominator stays the same. It's 4 up here. So I know 1 1/4 is equivalent to 504, which is also equivalent to $1.25, 1.25. Let's take a look at number 15. Here's an improper fraction. It's just like 16. I'm going to divide. I'm going to find out what the remainder is. That'll become the numerator, and the denominator will stay 3. So this is going to look like, here's 22 as the dividend. The little number, the denominator, that's the divisor. It goes outside the box. I know 22 divided by 3 is 7. That's going to be the whole number. 7 times 3 is 21. I subtract, and there's 1 left over. The remainder is the numerator. It goes up here. The denominator stays 3. So I know the 7 1/3 is equivalent to 22 over 3. It's also equivalent to $7.33 if I want to write it as a decimal. Okay? Now, sometimes when you're dividing fractions, that second fraction, it might be a mixed number. You have to make it an improper fraction and then flip it, because we remember this week when we divide fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction, and reciprocal just means to flip. So you're flipping the second fraction. Don't flip the first one. Let's look at some samples of that from this week. So in number 1 here, which one am I going to flip? The 1/5 or the 2/3? The second one, always the second fraction. So I know that 1 over 5 divided by 2/3 is equivalent to 1 over 5 times 3 over 2. I know that it's equivalent because the opposite of division is multiplication. So if I'm going to do the opposite of this division equation, I have to do the opposite of 2/3. I have to flip it, but I also have to do the opposite of division, and that's multiplication. So once I get to this step, then I can just multiply the top times the top is 3. The bottom times the bottom, 5 times 2 is 10. Let's look at this question. So I don't do anything to the first fraction. That stays 1/3. But I flip the second one. And when I flip it, I'm just going to multiply instead of divide, because when I invert this, I have to do the opposite of the equation. Right now, the equation says to divide. But if I invert this, the opposite of division is multiplication. So now I flip 3/4 and it becomes 4 over 3. Step 2 is multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. So 1 times 4 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. Let's look at this question. I have 4 over 9 divided by 1/2. First step, flip the second fraction. 4 over 9. And I'm going to multiply 2 over 1. Second step, I'm going to multiply my numerators and my denominators. 4 times 2 is 8. 9 times 1 is 9. Let's look at this question down here. First step, flip the second fraction and then multiply. 1/3 times 10 over 7. 1 times 10 is 10. 3 times 7 is 21. Here, I'm going to leave 2/9 the way it is. I'm going to flip the second fraction and then multiply. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 9 is 27. Okay. Where am I going to practice this skill? We want you to practice this skill for 8 lessons on IXL Part L. And that's going to look like on your IXL account. You take you to where IXL. Let's see here. If I can show you that. Okay, so on IXL, I'm looking at Part 11 here. And I can see very quickly, Rihanna has mastered 1, 2, 3 of those skills. She's mastered reciprocals because she's scored over an 85%. She's mastered dividing whole numbers by unit fractions, but she still needs to work on this lesson, dividing fractions, estimating quotients, dividing fractions with mixed numbers. That's kind of what we talked about, converting that mixed number into an improper fraction and then flipping it. I can look here at Toby. Toby's mastered the first one. Notice that there are 8 lessons that you need to master for dividing fractions. I look at Mia, she's mastered 1. You have to score an 85 or higher to finish a lesson, okay? I look at Eric, Eric's mastered 1, 2, 3 lessons.
Mr.
Maya's
Ramsey?
mastered 1. Jaden, you've mastered 3.
Mr. Ramsey,
Yep.
can you refresh it?
Yeah, absolutely. Is this an old one? Okay, hang on here. Okay, scores. Okay, let me scroll this down to L again. Okay, can you guys see that? There's L, I see your names. Okay. So Rihanna, you've mastered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's great. I can see over here, Francisco, he's got 100% on 3, the first 3 lessons. I see Bree has mastered 2. Look at Noria, you've mastered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Noria only has 2 left that she's got to do. I can see over here, Shabazz, you've mastered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Destiny's almost done. She's mastered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So several of you have been working really hard on this. What's the goal? What's the goal? To finish all of them. So you have 8 lessons. I want you to work on this for at least 30 minutes today, okay? All right, the other thing that I want you to take a look at, let me stop our recording here, because I'm not recording all of this today.